Welcome, and thank you for joining us at the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston this morning. I'm Joe Lack, chair of this year's church auction. It was great to see so many of you at last night's kickoff happy hour. Please go to the auction website to see the great things we have to bid on. This morning, we'll again be treated to wonderful music by the Sanctuary Choir, as well as Dr. Bossen's sermon. Direct experience of awe and wonder is available to us at all times. In this service, we'll explore how we can wake ourselves up to and undergo what Dr. Bossen sometimes calls the resurrection of the living. For those of you new to our congregation or our online services, I invite you to continue watching after the benediction to hear more about Unitarian Universalism. Now we invite you to hear our call to worship.
Amanda Gorman recited her poem, The Hill We Climb, Wednesday at the inauguration. For this morning's call to worship, I've selected excerpts from Gorman's poem, The Miracle of Mourning. I thought I'd awaken to a world in mourning, heavy clouds crowding, a society storming. But there's something different on this golden morning, something magical in the sunlight, wide and warming. While we might feel small, separate, and all alone, our people have never been more closely tethered. The question isn't if we will weather this unknown, but how we will weather this unknown together. Let every dawn find us courageous, brought closer, heeding the light before the fight is over. When this ends, we'll smile sweetly, finally seeing in testing times, we became the best of beings. Come, let us worship together.
Celebremos compartiendo nuestras vidas, encendiendo esta luz.
Ven, ven, alégrate hoy, ven, alégrate hoy, es hoy un día muy feliz, ven, alégrate hoy, ven a escuchar la canción, ven a escuchar la canción, es hoy un día muy feliz, ven, alégrate hoy. Ven abierto el corazón, ven abierto el corazón. Es hoy un día muy feliz, ven, alégrate hoy. No tengas miedo a cambiar, no tengas miedo a cambiar. Es hoy un día muy feliz, ven, alégrate hoy. Ven, alégrate hoy. Ven, alégrate hoy. Es hoy un día muy feliz, ven, alégrate hoy.
Members of the Chalice Society are those individuals and couples who have included the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston in their estate plan. They have taken tangible steps to make possible legacy gifts to ensure that this beloved community thrives in the future and that our programs and ministries continue to flourish. If you would like more information on how you might become a member of the Chalice Society, please contact Lydia Luz, Legacy Giving Task Force member, or our business administrator, Tawana Grice. To honor their generosity and inspire others to consider doing the same, we are displaying the names of the members of the Chalice Society on this beautiful permanent display in the Museum District Sanctuary. Today, we dedicate this donor wall and sincerely thank these individuals for their benevolence. Dr. Bossen will now offer a prayer of dedication.
We dedicate our new donor wall with a prayer of appreciation. Find your center. Imagine the spark within, the flickering flame, your spirit, the thing that is you, that makes heat and transforms matter into energy. As you do, open yourself to gratitude. I invite you to be grateful for all who have given much, so that we might have what we have, a space for this religious community to gather when it is safe to gather, equipment and staff so that we might bring you this service, meetings over Zoom for adults and children in which we can build connections, deepen our sense of awe and wonder, and grow in wisdom. I invite you to be grateful for those who have given of the gifts of their lives to our Chalice Society, so that the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston might endure across the generations. We honor them now with this wall, and we will honor them in the days to come, for they have honored us with their devotion and generosity. I say to them, thank you, and end this prayer not with an amen, but with an invitation for you to say thank you as well.
These are the founding members of the Chalice Society: Reverend Bob Shibley and Stephen Storia, Theodore Hugh Hoppins, Martha and Henry Angel, Patricia and John Hefner, Blair Hickey, Catherine Seckler, Zelda Rick, Landon Jones, Verl Rennick, Francis and Julian Green, Sherry McMahon, Miriam Merritt, Ava Rosenkrantz, Wayne Travis, Doris Field, Emily and Andrew Ladner, Alan Perry, Barbara Nelson, Dennis Clappersack, John Kellett, Bunny and Karen Carlson, Earl and Georgette Dredge, the Reverend Daniel King and Nina Benedetto, Marilyn Knight, Mary E. Cook and Ronald R. Cookston, Lydia J. Luz, Don Poole, Rita Sailors and Thorpe Butler, Wendy Van Sickle, Joan H. Bitar, Bob and Lois Hart, Carol Loggins, Peggy Harvey and Paul Hornick, Wendy Jane Rodewald, Constance Connie Acosta, Natalie L. Brown, Steve Colvin and Francis Johnson, Bill Nelson, Eileen W. Allen, Leonora Montgomery, Dorothy Kim Waller.
Please join me in the spirit that some call prayer and others name meditation. Spirit of life, that some of us name God and others understand as the breath of life itself, bless the peoples of the world, which is to say, inspire our hearts to compassion and our hands to action as we enter into the first weeks of a new presidency. Spirit of life, inspire us to heed the call of the new President of the United States and express our care and concern for others by wearing masks and practicing physical distancing. Bless the healthcare and essential workers, which is another way of saying inspire each of us to show them consideration, appreciation, and kindness, so that they might oversee the successful distribution of vaccines and the continuing care for all who need it. Open us, and especially open the new administrations to the lessons of the hour, so that we might learn to never repeat the horrors of the last year again, that future pandemics will be prevented, and that the dreadful serpent of white supremacy crushed into the earth forever. Stir our memories, so that we may honor those who have died here in the United States and throughout the world during this dreadful time, by doing what we can, by doing what we each have been called to do, to build the beloved community and create a world where there is truly peace, prosperity, justice, and health for all. May it be so, blessed be, and amen. We pause now together to lift up that which sits heavy and light on our hearts. We lift up Grace Amborski, who took a fall and is recovering at home. We send our prayers, positive energy, and wishes for a speedy recovery. We lift up an uncle of P.D. Wadler, who passed away this week. We hold him, his family, in our hearts as they mourn the loss. And we lift up Grace Roberts, a longtime friend of my family, who also died this week. We hold in our hearts her children, Robert and Joanna, granddaughter, Cressidia, and many friends at this time. I invite you now to say the name or to bring to mind those you wish to be held in the loving embrace of this religious community. In this great cloud of witness and memory, amid the beloved community, we hear these names and hold them in our hearts. We pause in awe and wonder of the mystery that is life. In the spirit of love, in the spirit of hope, and in the spirit of compassion, I invite each of you to enter into a time of silent prayer, meditation, or reflection.
This morning, our offering will be shared with the Rutherford B. Yates Museum in Freedmanstown. Please enjoy this video about the museum.
Lou Williams is proud of where she grew up.
It was a very good experience for a young person.
Lou grew up in Freedmanstown, built by a community of freed slaves and their descendants in the late 1800s and early 1900s. They built homes, churches, businesses, and even the roads.
African Americans put those bricks out there on Andrew Street, and they've been there over 100 years.
But sadly, Freedmanstown and the community that built it is in danger of being forgotten. The Rutherford B.H. Yates Museum was established to make sure that doesn't happen. Dr. Theophilus Harrington is the president of the Yates Museum.
What Yates Museum will do is to have a footprint around education, archaeology, research, and of course preservation. The Yates Museum has 10 properties, and on those properties we have 6 structures.
Including houses of special historical significance.
That's the house that was occupied by the first African-American lawyer, attorney in the Houston area.
His goal is clear.
That we can show people who were here and the kind of struggle that they went through to have a point of significance as a neighborhood and a community in Houston.
To preserve this community, the Yates Museum needs help from the larger Houston community.
So those 6 structures need some kind of maintenance or restoration.
Volunteers from the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston have been offering their time, energy, and money for over 15 years.
Who's been working diligently to bring those projects to stabilization, and one to near completion that we hope we'll have a soft opening sometime this year for. We are undertaking a capital fundraising campaign, and that campaign is going to be over, of course, some years. We will be able to preserve the property structures that we have.
When the houses are returned to their original glory, Theo and Luz see the museum as a symbol to show others what this community achieved.
We need to pass that on to our children and grandchildren or whatever.
Protecting it and passing it on.
Yeah.
Protecting it and passing it on.
Today, through our shared offering to the Yates Museum, we are helping to promote the preservation, education, archaeology, and research of African diaspora history in our region. So we ask you to give generously. An offering will now be gratefully received.
Our first reading comes from Emerson, The Mind on Fire by Robert D. Richardson, Jr. On March 29, 1832, the 28-year-old Emerson visited the tomb of his young wife, Ellen, who had been buried a year and 2 months earlier. He was in the habit of walking from Boston out to her grave in Roxbury every day, but on this particular day, he did more than commune with the spirit of the departed Ellen. He opened the coffin. Ellen had been young and pretty. She was 17 when they were engaged, 18 when married, and barely 20 when she died of advanced tuberculosis. They had made frantic efforts at a cure, including long open-air carriage rides and massive doses of country air. Their life together had been stained almost from the start by the bright blood of Ellen's coughing. Opening the coffin was not a grisly Gothic gesture, not just the wild aberration of an unhinged lover. Emerson opened not only the tomb or family vault, but the coffin itself. The act was essential to Emerson. He had to see for himself. Some part of him was not able to believe she was dead. He was still writing to her in his journals as though she was alive. Perhaps the very deadness of the body would help a belief in the life of the spirit. We do not know exactly what moved Emerson on this occasion, but we do know that he had a powerful craving for direct, personal, unmediated experience.
The second reading is If You Are Over Staying Woke by Morgan Parker. Water the plants. Drink plenty of water. Don't hear the news. Get bored. Complain about the weather. Keep a corkscrew in your purse. Swipe right sometimes. Don't smile unless you want to. Sleep in. Don't see the news. Remember what the world is like for white people. Listen to cricket songs. Floss, take pills, keep an empty mind. When you are hung over, do not say, I'm never drinking again. Be honest when you're up to it. Otherwise, drink water, lie to yourself, turn off the news, burn the papers, skip the funerals, take pills, laugh at dumb stuff, sleep with people you don't care about. Use the crock pot, use the juicer, use the smoothie maker. Drink water from the sky. Don't think too much about the sky. Don't think about the water. Skip the funerals. Close your eyes whenever possible. When you toast, look everyone in the eyes. Never punctuate the president. Write the news. Turn into water. Water the fire escape. Burn the paper. Crumble the letters. Instead of hyacinths, pick hydrangeas. Water the hydrangeas. Wilt the news. White the hydrangeas. Drink the white, waterfall, the cricket songs. Keep a song mind. Don't smile, don't wilt. Funeral, funeral.
Something rather momentous occurred since the last time I was with you. There is a new president and a new vice president of the United States. A man with almost 5 decades of experience in governance is now the country's chief executive. A woman is now in the nation's second highest office. The new cabinet is racially diverse and will include an unprecedented number of women. And the new administration has a radically different approach to the pandemic than the previous one. Anthony Fauci said that in one of his initial meetings with the president, he was told, everything we do is going to be based on science and truth, and if things go wrong and we make mistakes, we admit them and we try and fix them. What a refreshing approach! I do not doubt that the new administration will feed us some untruths and distort bits of information to suit its agenda. Not only politicians, but people in general always do that. But there is a big difference between the ordinary wiles of governance and the mendaciousness we have been subjected to over the last 4 years. The former president is such a liar that misinformation on Twitter has declined by 73% since his removal from the platform. I want to pause here for a moment to observe something. If we were together in the sanctuary, I would have gotten applause for at least 3 of the lines thus far in the sermon. And someone might have even said amen to that right now. So I want to give you a chance to applaud at home. I'm going to repeat the earlier lines, and then after I repeat each one, I'm going to say applause. At that point, I invite you to do just that and clap, cheer, stomp your feet. Do whatever you like to do when you hear something you really appreciate in the service. Ava, Christian, Scott, and Tawana, maybe you could try to applaud too so that the people watching this video can feel like they're part of a congregation clapping for a bit of the service that they really like. The United States has a new president and vice president. Applause. Everything we do is going to be based on science and truth, and if things go wrong and we make mistakes, we admit them and we try and fix them. Applause. The former president is such a liar that misinformation on Twitter has declined by 73% since his removal from the platform. Applause. They got into it. I hope you did too. How did it feel? Good? Silly? A little artificial? It ties directly into the subject of this service. We're going to talk about the struggles with savoring our everyday experiences of the world around us that many of us are facing during this era of pandemic. If we're heeding the science, then so much of what we are experiencing in the world right now comes through our screens. And for me, and I anticipate for many of us, that makes it a little hard to fully engage with what Robert Richardson Jr. has described as the Emersonian craving for direct, personal, unmediated experience. The title of this service is The Resurrection of the Living. Now, I've spoken about this in the past. My understanding of it is inspired by a line in the Gnostic Christian text, the Treatise on the Resurrection. There we find this answer to the query, what is the resurrection? It is truth standing firm. It is revelation of what is and the transformation of things and a transition into freshness. Truth, transformation, the revelation of what is, a transition into freshness. The resurrection of the living is that teaching, that wisdom found in so many of the world's religions that tells us the purpose of life is to open ourselves to the glory, the beauty, the wonder around us. It is the Buddha's answer to the question, are you a God? With the answer, I am awake. It is Jesus' teaching, God is not God of the dead, but of the living. It is the Jewish theologian Martin Buber's claim, all actual life is encounter. It is the Hindu poet Mirabe's enjoyment, get up, stop sleeping, the days of a life are short. It is the Sioux scholar Nick Estes' observation, the moral universe is how one relates to others and to the land. It is, our Unitarian Universalist Association describes it as direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. I have to admit that in recent moments and months, I have really struggled to embrace the experience of transcending mystery and wonder that is available to each of us. The unrelenting onslaught of the pandemic has left me feeling more flat and foggy than awake. Do you know what I'm talking about? There is a certain smallness and sameness to my world these days. It's like this. The day starts. My cat greets me with aggressive purring. I read for a moment and then groggily put on some clothes and roll my bicycle out of the door. I ride for about 30 minutes. I like to bike through a neighborhood with aged live oaks arching the streets and draped with moss. And then it's back home. The kettle is on for tea. I wake my son, shower, make breakfast, usually some toast and a bit of fruit from the farmer's market, and then get in front of my computer and start work. It's a mixture of video calls, writing, and email until lunchtime. There's leftovers if I've got them. Otherwise, it's a salad or tinned fish with radishes, crackers, and maybe something pickled on the side. And then it's back to the computer with its mixture of video calls, email, and writing. That ends, and it's time to make dinner and help my son with his homework. Maybe there's something special to eat. I have some fresh Nepalis which I got recently, and I'm planning to serve in mole enchiladas. But often it's pretty basic fare, pasta or tacos or the like. Along the way, I normally listen to the news or the BBC. I favor NPR, Democracy Now!, and droll British comedy. And afterwards, my son and I typically watch a bit of television. At that point in the day, I've probably seen no one in person other than him, and there's just more chores to do before bedtime. Fold the laundry, tidy the kitchen, clean the bathroom, maybe empty the cat litter, or sweep the floor. By the time it's all over, I'm just kind of exhausted. Maybe I read for 10 or 20 minutes before bed, but by that point I can barely keep my eyes open. Maybe the cat comes by for an evening visit. Then the day repeats itself. Sure, there are slight variations, but even these feel routine. I mean, there's the day I come to Museum District to record the sermon, and the delightful evening when my lady friend comes by for dinner. But these ruptures are rarely enough to entirely puncture the persistent rhythm that haunts the rest of my waking. Even the inauguration of a new president seemed to fall into that constant pattern. I did not toast it with friends. I did not go to a party. It came over the screen as everything else does. What about you? Does what I'm describing seem familiar? I know that many of my family members and friends, as well as many of you, report similar experiences. It can be quite difficult to find that mystery and wonder in a life that feels filled with flatness or endless repetition. The poet Morgan Parker describes a bit of what it is like to live life this way in her poem, If You're Over Staying Woke. Water the plants. Drink plenty of water. Don't hear the news. Get bored. Complain about the weather. Keep a corkscrew in your purse. Swipe right sometimes. Don't smile unless you want to. Sleep in. Yet this is the world we must wake up to. Actually, I'm going to say this is the world that I must wake up to. It's a truism among preachers that preachers often preach the sermon that we need to hear. And the sermon I need to hear today is this: how to experience the revelation of what is, the transformation of things, and a transition into freshness in a time of pandemic. It is how to undergo the resurrection of the living when there is a certain stuckness in the world. There's a lot of spiritual teaching that offers advice on how to proceed in such a time. The Buddhist and Jewish traditions in particular have various practices meant to wake us up from the sleep of daily monotony. Thich Nhat Hanh has written a number of lovely books as encouragement along these lines. In them there are instructions like this one meant to help attune the practitioner to peace and joy of the body. Aware of the hair on my head, I breathe in. Smiling to the hair on my head, I breathe out. Aware of my eyes, I breathe in. Smiling to my eyes, I breathe out. Aware of my ears, I breathe in. Smiling to my ears, I breathe out. Aware of my teeth, I breathe in. Smiling to my teeth, I breathe out. Aware of my smile, I breathe in. Smiling to my smile, I breathe out. Nat Han continues the meditation for another 9 verses. He invites the reciter to smile to their shoulders, arms, lungs, heart, liver, bowels, kidneys, feet, and toes. The entire point of the exercise is to help wake us up to the body we inhabit and to treat our body as a blessing. Nowhere in the meditation is the aspiration that we might have a different body than the one we inhabit. He is urging me to smile to my hair, however long and disheveled, and to my eyes, as myopic as they are, and to my teeth, broken though they may be by youthful violence. He is urging you to embrace your body with its imperfections in the same way. It is a meditation to embrace what is, which is another way of saying it is a meditation that is meant to reveal what is. It is a sort of thing that helps me undergo the resurrection of the living, to experience a transition into freshness. And I confess that reciting it while preparing the sermon and reciting it just now, I have been left feeling a little more open to the mystery and wonder around me and of which I am a part. There is a basic pleasure, a small deliciousness available in each breath. The air comes into my nose. It offers a slight tingle as my lungs expand. There's a satisfaction to be had when I push air out. If I was a scientist, I might explain to you the complicated splendor of it all, the way in which the blood colors when filled with or lacking oxygen, the majesty of the respiratory system, and the connection between consciousness, inspiration, intake, and expiration, exhalation. The focus on breath during this time of horrors can make me meditate upon the difficulty of the hour. The novel coronavirus is a respiratory virus. Many people who die from it die from suffocation. To speak of breath right now is to speak of something that in this exact moment, several people are struggling to do. Some will fail in their efforts and succumb to the virus. It is painful to open ourselves to this truth. It is painful, but it is good too, because it allows us to be honest about the stakes that we face in this country and as a human species, and who we are. Those of us who survive this pandemic will carry with us the memories of those who do not. As the new president said, to heal, we must remember. It is hard sometimes to remember, but that's how we heal. The lesson, the pandemic lesson, the one that I always need to remind myself of, is that whenever I'm experiencing, whatever I'm experiencing at any given time, is the fullness of my experience at that time. It might be an experience of memory, remembering those who we have lost. It might be an experience of just pure experience, but I can open myself to the mystery and wonder, and I can close myself to it. But it is there. Or alternatively, to quote the classic cult film Buckaroo Banzai, no matter where you go, there you are. Mystery and wonder, I might remind you, does not necessarily equate with joy and ecstasy. Ralph Waldo Emerson was one of our foremost Unitarian theologians. He did not teach that we should open ourselves only to joy and close everything else off. Instead, he taught that we should open ourselves to all that is, the joy, the sorrow, the pain, the pleasure, and in that we might find connection with the divine. He pursued this path so far that he sought to open the caskets of his beloved first wife and favorite son so that he could truly experience the loss of their death. The Jewish theologian taught that the purpose of the Sabbath was to intentionally set aside each week so that we might give ourselves over to the full experience of being. Abraham Joshua Heschel believed time is the heart of existence and felt that the purpose of life was to face sacred moments. The Sabbath comes once a week, every week. It is an opportunity to experience, in his words, the climax of living. The stuckness of the week, this never-ending routine week, this week of pandemic, is made better by setting aside time for the sacredness of living. I realize now that however tedious and repetitious this time of pandemic might seem, there are intervals within it where I can embrace the eternal now. This requires nothing special. It only requires that I set aside some time to rest. This might be very difficult amid the demands of pandemic working and parenting, but it is still possible. Actually, I will remind myself to do it today. When I get home, I will not give myself immediately over to the seeming unending task of helping my son with his online schooling or keeping the house clean. I'll take time to just be and appreciate some time. Pet the cat, lie on the couch, enjoy my tea, light a candle. And after I've done that, I will be refreshed. Maybe only a little refreshed, but refreshed nonetheless. And I will be a little more able to open myself to mystery and wonder. I suggest that you try the same thing and set aside just some time just to be. If you do, you might even find yourself caught up in a bit of mystery and wonder. There's an experience I sometimes have when I truly place myself in the complete present. The infinitude, the eternity of now subsumes me. I sit there or I lie there. My eyes are closed or they are open, and I find myself drifting in the vastness of the world. Time appears as it really is, without beginning or ending, something that just is. And I am in it, and you are in it, and everything is in it. It goes on forever and ever and forever and ever. It contains vast nebula, dying stars, decomposing asphalt, gray, blue, freckled crawfish, viney, fiery orange nasturtium, and you, and you, and me. Savor each breath. Set aside time to just rest. I've reminded myself of these easy practices, these opportunities for the resurrection of the living, so that I might come unstuck and that the pandemic routine might feel a little less routine. And I have to tell you that after having written these words and preached them to you, I feel less stuck. Have they helped you as well? That is my hope. Now, I cannot see your faces through the screen, nor can I know whether sharing this time with you has helped you to mark it as sacred, has helped you to wake up to the resurrection of the living. That is for you to experience. But as for myself, I have been present for this sermon. And as I have reminded myself that there is mystery and wonder in the present. Direct experience, the resurrection of the living, is here all the time. We only need to turn ourselves to it. And I pray that my words have helped you to do just that. Amen, and blessed be.
a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing. 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 There's a river flowing in my soul.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
As we end our service, let us open ourselves to the mystery and wonder around us, of which we are a part, and which is ever unfurling in beauty and marvel, and which always contains the divine. We end in peace, we end in love. May each of our lives be a blessing. Amen.
Please join me in thanking Tawana Grice, our business administrator, and Mark Vogel, our music director, for participating in today's service. Mark was joined by the First Church Sanctuary Choir, Steve Colvin on drums, Charlie Burris on guitar, and the original music was performed by James Westfall from our Thoreau campus. For those of you who may be new to our congregation or the online services, let us say a few words about Unitarian Universalism. Unitarian Universalism is a faith where you can bring your whole self, your full identity, your questioning mind, your expansive heart. As Unitarian Universalists, we join together on a journey that honors everywhere we've been before. Together, we create a force more powerful than one person or one belief system. Our beliefs are diverse and inclusive. Rather than a creed, we share a covenant based on a set of 7 principles. These include the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and the knowledge that we are part of an interconnected web of all existence that calls us to honor the earth and all creatures. Thank you for being with us today.
While our church as buildings is closed, our church as people is still meeting, but now online. There are weekly and monthly offerings to keep you connected and engaged with our community. Join us this morning at 11:30 for the Coffee Half Hour. There's no topic or agenda. Log in to interact, chat, and laugh with new and old friends. Alessandro Manzoni's The Betrothed describes the oppressive years of direct Spanish rule in northern Italy in 1628 and the plague that struck Milan around 1630. Join the discussion of the celebrated Italian historical novel with Reverend Colin Tuesday at 5. Join the Wednesday evening discussions for fun, facilitated, and educational conversations on a variety of topics. This week, Pam will lead a conversation asking, "What is white privilege, really?" Log in between 4:45 and 5 to meet and greet others before the discussion. Many of the topics for upcoming discussion groups are on our website, firstuuhouston.org/online-group-meetings. Visit there for more details and to sign up. And remember, all times shown are Central Standard Time.